I, Douglas Ducote, an American patriot by the grace of God, do solemnly swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America from enemies foreign and especially domestic. I, Douglas Ducote, an American patriot by the grace of God, do solemnly swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America from enemies foreign and especially domestic. Say it with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, Patriots, and welcome to another edition of the Douglas Ducote Show. I'm choking for some damn reason. I'm not sure what it is, other than things that Doc texts me every now and then that gets me choked up. So hold on a second. All right, you had many places to be tonight, but chose to be here watching me choke. And for that, I'm forever grateful. Thank you. We have a lot to cover tonight, so bear with me. We may end up going past the hour. I'm not sure. Depends on how many more times I've got to choke and how long it takes me to get through all this shit. So bear with me. Tonight's lead story, and this is a good one. Joe Biden yells at staff and shuns his seventh grandchild. Now, the most unexpected people are waking up. Members of one of the most elite groups are starting a campaign to slowly push Joe Biden out of the 2024 presidential race. Oh, well, that should have started a long time ago when the rest of us realized what was happening at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. So is the New York Times columnist Maureen Dowell a slow learner, only now discovering Joe Biden is not who he pretends to be? Or has the liberal media suddenly been given a green light to criticize the president? Are Democrat leaders conspiring to push him out as scandal envelopes the White House and the president's approval ratings drop to levels not seen since former President Jimmy Carter? Well, New York Times columnist Dow caused something of a commotion over the past weekend by criticizing Joe Biden, a rare event for the left-leaning press. In a piece titled, "It's Seven Grandchildren, Mr. President," Dow chastised the president correctly for ignoring his seventh grandchild, a little girl named Navy Joan Roberts, born to Hunter Biden and London Roberts. She and her Republican sister Peggy, apparently a fan of the president, are shocked that Biden, a self-declared family man, would be so unkind to Hunter's out-of-wedlock daughter. Dow writes, Joe Biden's mantra has always been that the absolute most important thing is your family. And he said that once, he said it a million times. It is the heart of his political narrative. She said it scares her that little Navy's life, by refusing to acknowledge her, is so easy for him to do. Joe Biden, the dedicated family man? Did they miss all those videos of Biden getting handsy with young girls and sniffing their hair? Or Ashley Biden's diary, in which she wonders whether she was sexually abused and opens that showering with her dad was probably not appropriate. That's right. Did they honestly think that was normal? The Dowell sisters have finally caught onto what millions figured out long ago, and that's that Joe Biden is a fraud. The president's big flashy smile and corny language have conned voters for years, but Americans are figuring out that the president is not all who he pretends to be. For example, he is not the gentle grandfatherly fellow he pretends to be. On Monday, Access reported a scathering piece titled "Oh Yella" about Biden's bad temper, rages, and moodiness, including his copious use of vulgar language. The author writes, the private eruptions paint a more complicated picture of Biden as a manager and president than his careful, cultivated image as a kindly uncle who loves aviator sunglasses and ice cream. Actually, not complicated at all, merely disagreeable. More fundamental, please remember the core promises of his 2020 campaign: that he would govern as a political moderate and work to bring the nation together. He tossed those pledges out the window the minute he occupied the Oval Office. To win the 2020 election, he did a deal with then rival Bernie Sanders, more or less adopting a progressive senator's agenda in return for his fellow voters. The Biden-Sanders agenda spawned more than $4.6 trillion, Tasami, of new spending that awakened the inflation bear that has caused middle-class real incomes to drop for 26 straight months. Joe Biden was not a tag-along. He began drinking the progressive Kool-Aid even before the voters were cast. As NPR reported, talking more and more about a presidency that approaches Franklin Roosevelt's with bold progressive ambitions. Joe Biden has also, from day one in the Oval Office, worked carelessly and purposely to divide the country, delivering blistering attacks on Republicans and unleashing the hounds of the Justice Department to squash dissident parents and observant Catholics. Biden's promise to return decency and honesty to the White House, with transvestites bearing their bosoms on the South Lawn, cocaine appearing in the West Wing, and worse, scandal involving the president, we can agree that pledge has been broken. Biden is accused credibly of taking bribes and receiving payoffs from foreign companies while serving as vice president. The majority of voters now think these charges are true. Instead of responding to these horrifying allegations, the president brushes aside the mounting evidence of apparent wrongdoing as malarkey, or worse, challenges the press by asking, well, where's the money? Makrasy Zaliski, the Ukrainian owner of Burisma and the country's former Minister of Ecology and Natural Resources, claims to have forked over millions in bribes to Hunter and Joe Biden. He says the money went into so many shell corporations it will take 10 years to trace. My guess is that we will never, ever see it. When he took the oath of office, more Americans thought Joe Biden was honest than disagreed by a margin of 7 points. That average has since disappeared. Biden's overall approval ratings, according to 538, are underwater by 14 points, worse than any president at this point in his term going back to the Truman era. But for Jimmy Carter. So Maureen Dow and her sister are either late to the party or the attack on Biden is purposely. Increasingly, journalists on the left are daring to question whether Biden should run again. Several have gently suggested his age is an issue, even as they pretend that up until now has been a terrific president. Note, terrific presidents do not typically earn historical dreadful approval ratings. Foreign policy guru Elliot Cohen published a piece in The Atlantic in recent days thanking Biden for having prevented Donald Trump from occupying the White House for another 4 years, but also writing the president has no business running for the presidency at his age. In a flawn interview over the weekend, CNN's Frederick Zetrick flattered the president before asking about Biden's happening supporters who think the next thing you should do is step aside and let another generation of Democrats take the baton. This seems like a sea change. Up until now, it was only Republicans who noted the president's declining mental acuity and questioned whether the obvious challenged president should run for another 4 years. The change could have been triggered by this. The Real Clear Politics average of polls show Joe Biden losing to Donald Trump in 2024. A possibility Democrats cannot tolerate. Unless Biden enjoys a majority reverse of the future, look for more deflections and more attacks from former allies. They cannot afford to wait long. Nobody wants Kamala Harris to be their candidate. So I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to say this much. The Democrats, with the Department of Justice and the FBI, are doing everything in their power to put Donald J. Trump in a prison cell before you get to go to the polls to vote. Because that is the only thing that stops him from getting reelected, is going to prison. They will throw everything they possibly can at this man. It will not let up. It will continue all the way up to the day of voting. And then they will continue after that for 4 years, like they did this last 4 years he was in there, wasting your money, trying everything in their power. Now, if the Republicans keep the House and win back the Senate, well, you don't have to worry about all that bullshit investigations like they did the last go around. But we will see. But it is my prediction right now that Donald Trump will be the next president of the United States, barring going to prison. I said it right here, 7/11/2023 at 8:11 p.m. Mark my words. Let's talk a little bit more about Joe Biden's failed family values by not recognizing his little granddaughter. Even CNN thinks this is fucked up. CNN anchor Dana Bash, who hates Donald Trump and loves her some Joe Biden, joined the recent media pile-on against President Biden for refusing to acknowledge his 7th grandchild, calling it sad and disturbing on so many levels. When you're a Democrat in office and you lose CNN, you're screwed. Late last month, Hunter Biden reached a settlement following a years-long court battle with an Arkansas woman who he shares a 4-year-old daughter, after previously denying that she existed and then denying that it was his until DNA tests were done to prove that he was the father. It was also recently reported the White House messaging was that President Biden, who often speaks fondly about his family, only has 6 grandchildren, not including the one his son had with this woman. On Monday, the Inside Politics host tackled the subject while covering the brutal criticism the president received from New York Times columnist Maureen Dowd, who we just talked about. This is a story that is sad and disturbing on so many levels, Bash said during a panel discussion. Yes, it is political for a couple of reasons. Number one, yes, Republicans are using it, and they're going to take advantage of it in a way that is unfortunate and, in some cases, she said, inappropriate, which I don't see how she figures that. If she's already upset that he's not recognizing the little girl, it is what it is on face value. But the reason they're not doing that is because, and able to do that is because of the brand and the kind of person that we all know and believe Joe Biden to be, because it's who he says he is. And it's somebody who is a family man. That's what we see all the time, she said. Bash then played a clip of Biden from this past April, boasting about how he's crazy about his grandchildren and how he speaks to them every single day, adding they're crazy about him because they pay so much attention to them. Look, it's complicated. Families are really, really hard, especially when you have issues that we have seen in this one. But he's also the president, and he also has a political brand, Bash reacted. The CNN anchor shrugged out Democrats' complaints about how the mother received financial assistance with her lawsuit against Hunter Biden from MAGA and Republican lawyers, telling the panel, maybe that's true, but does that really matter? We're talking about a 4-year-old girl here who her grandfather, the President of the United States, will not recognize that she exists. On the flip side, said, I've talked to Democrats who are very much in love with Joe Biden, who say that it's kind of devastating to the image of who he is, Bash said. Times columnist Dow penned a critical piece over the weekend calling out how Biden's shunning of his granddaughter undercuts his empathy personality. The president's cold shoulder and heart is counter to every message he's ever sent for decades, and it's out of sync with the America he wants to continue to lead, Dow wrote. Now, look, I don't, for the life of me, understand. I don't understand how anybody can be a deadbeat parent or a deadbeat grandparent, for that matter. You bring a child into this world, love that child, support that child, help raise that child. In this case, this little 4-year-old girl, what has she done wrong? Joe? What? She didn't ask to be born to your crackhead son, but she was, and she's here, and she's not going away. And the fact that you refuse to recognize that she exists should show everybody, regardless of your political affiliation, what a low-life piece of shit Joe Biden is. He's just as worse as his son when it comes to this. She's a 4-year-old little girl who is going to grow up to know that her grandfather was the president of the United States and he didn't give a fuck about her. That's what's going to happen. Why is this happening? I don't know. I'm not in Joe Biden's head. But from everything I've seen so far unfolding and everything that Hunter's done that's unfolding, what a cluster this has become. And it's sad because, once again, in the middle of this is a 4-year-old little girl who is being denied by her father and her grandfather, who is the president of the United States. And that should piss off everyone, regardless of your political party. It only took forever and a day, but CNN is finally coming around, as we just talked about. Now let's talk about CNN anchor Jake Tapper, who's been a big supporter of Joe Biden so much I think he would love to get on his knees and blow him if he could. Oh, maybe that was Don Lemon. I'm sorry. But anyhow, Jake Tapper is adamant now about the importance of covering the Hunter Biden scandal, which was the complete opposite approach he took during the 2020 presidential election. During an interview on the podcast, on with Kara Shriver, Tapper was asked about the recent plea arrangement or agreement President Biden's son reached with the Department of Justice over his tax crimes. Critics have panned the plea as a sweetheart deal, particularly in the wake of the explosive IRS whistleblower allegations that prosecutors were blocked from bringing heavier charges and investigators were told not to look into potential financial ties between Hunter and his daddy. I think we cover it. We have been covering it, and we need to cover it, Jake Tapper said. Look, I mean, Hunter Biden is who he is. It's pretty clear who he is, Tapper continued. In addition to being an addict, he's a guy who ethically there have been questions raised about his behavior, and I think it's worth covering. It's also worth covering in context, the context of everything that's being said in terms of like how fact-based any of it is or how evidence-based any of it is, but I'm not going to shy away from covering Hunter Biden anymore. He is the president's son and has made a lot of money being the president's son. And may I add that he's made a lot of money being the president's son without having any experience in doing so. Tapper's sentiments in July of 2023 are certainly not the same as those in October of 2020 and the days following the New York Times Post bombshell reporting on Hunter Biden's infamous laptop that shed light on his shady foreign business dealings, including mention of a 10% for the big guy, which was his daddy, which is widely believed to be Joe Biden himself. The right wing is going crazy with all sorts of allegations about Biden and his family. Too disgusting to even repeat here, Tapper told the panelists at the time. I mean, some of the ones I've seen from the president's son and some of the president's supporters are just wildly unhinged. According to the transcripts in the days following the post-laptop news, neither Tapper, two CNN programs made any mention of the term laptop, New York Post, or Tony Bobulinski, Hunter Biden's former business partner, who came forward at the time confirming that the emails from the laptop and investing the former vice president was involved in their business dealings. However, Tapper did invite multiple correspondents and guests who peddled the false narrative that the content from the laptop was Russian disinformation and a right-wing conspiracy. Tapper was perhaps following the orders of his then boss, Jeff Zucker, and CNN political director David Chandler, who told staff that the network was spiking the Hunter Biden laptop story, according to the audio tape released by Project Veritas. Obviously, we're not going with the New York Post story right now on Hunter Biden. Chandler was heard saying during a conference call on October 14th of 2020, the same day the Post released its first report on Hunter Biden's emails. Clinton later insisted the report was giving its marching orders to the right-wing echo chamber about what to talk about today. Notably, CNN verified the authenticity of the laptop in July of 2022. Fast forward to October 2022, when Tapper landed a rare interview with President Biden, but allotted just one question about Hunter, as reports at the time indicated the DOJ was pursuing tax and gun charges against the embattled son. Personally and politically, how do you react to that? Tapper lobbied the softball question to Biden. Tapper failed to ask any follow-up questions and didn't even touch the looming question over Hunter Biden's foreign business ties that could implicate his father, avoiding concerns about whether the president was involved in any of his son's financial dealings and if he himself ever received any kickbacks. There are also no inquiries about revelations that several of Hunter Biden's associates visited the Obama-Biden White House, even after Biden claimed on the campaign trail that he never talked business with his son. While he avoided covering the Biden scandal during the 2020 election, Tapper was one of CNN's biggest champions of Russiagate during the Trump years, including giving legitimacy to the debunked Steele dossier, the infamous Clinton campaign funded memo put together by ex-British spy Christopher Steele. It laid out scandalous and unfounded accusations about then-candidate Donald Trump. In May, Tapper acknowledged the Durham report was devastating for the FBI and that its finding actually cleared Donald Trump. You're losing CNN, Joe. What you gonna do now? Speaking of the man, the squatter at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, as I like to refer to him, Joe Biden, is facing intense backlash after revealing sensitive U.S. military secrets during an interview regarding the war in Ukraine. Biden sparked criticism after he discussed his administration's decision to send cluster munitions to Ukraine during an interview with CNN's Fareed Zakaria. It was a very difficult decision on my part, Biden said. And by the way, I discussed this with our allies. I discussed this with our friends up on the Hill. Biden's decision to send cluster ammunition to Ukraine was met with criticism from his opponents, such as Robert Kennedy Jr., who urged the president to stop and the ceaseless, caseless escalation by sending cluster munitions that Biden's former press secretary, Jen Psaki, described as a war crime. However, Biden's recent statement regarding his decision to transfer cluster munitions to Ukraine generated even more criticism than his original decision. During his interview with CNN, Biden highlighted the Ukrainian people's apparent need for additional ammunition, stating, "This is a war relating to munitions, and they're running out of that ammunition, and we're low on it too. And so what I finally did, I took the recommendation of the Defense Department to not permanently, but allow for this transition period while we get more than 155 weapons, these shells for the Ukrainians." Biden's comments quickly drew backlash on social media as user responded in confusion and anger to the president, announcing on live television to foreign adversaries that the United States has an ammunition shortage. Love when the president of America goes on CNN to tell everyone we're low on ammo, Logan Dotson, a political operative, tweeted. Steve Guest, a conservative commentator, labeled the president a moron, questioning whether Biden cared that our enemies in China are listening. Byron Yark, chief political correspondent for the Washington Examiner, warned that Biden's administration on live television indicated that the war in Ukraine is affecting U.S. readiness to defend itself. Joe Biden wasn't supposed to say the quiet part out loud. We're running out of ammunition? But now that the cat's out of the bag, one must ask whether continued support of Ukraine's military is even feasible if the conflict rages on, political commentator Ian Miles stated. You know, every president, sadly, has done just that. They get wrapped up in what they're saying and doing in interviews, and they mistakenly give out information that they shouldn't. So it's not just a Joe Biden fuck up. They all have done it, and it shouldn't happen. Our enemies should know nothing about what our stockpile of ammunition is, period. Waking up and jumping ship. It's the American thing to do. A Peach State lawmaker who angered her Democrat colleagues in the Georgia State House of Representatives over her support for a recent school choice bill is expected to announce that she is officially switching parties. Welcome. Misha Minor, a Democrat who has represented District 56 in Georgia State House since January 2021, went out shortly before noon today, so it should have already been announced, that she will switch her party to the Republican Party. When I decided to stand up on behalf of disadvantaged children and support of school choice, my Democrat colleagues didn't stand by me, she explained of her decision in a statement to Fox News Digital. They crucified me. When I decided to stand up and support safe communities and refuse to support efforts to defund the police, they didn't back me. They abandoned me. For far too long, the Democrat Party has gotten a way of using and abusing the Black community, she adds. And she's also a Black woman. For decades, the Democrat Party has received the support of more than 90% of the Black community. And what do we have to show for it, she said. I represent a solid blue district in the city of Atlanta. This isn't a political decision for me, it's a moral one. She made clear that her work across party lines will continue after she switches party, saying she has never hesitated to work across the aisle to deliver results for my community and the people I was elected to represent. And that won't change, she said. She said that she has been met with much encouragement aimed her decision to switch parties and noted that it's humbling to be embraced for the first time in a long time by individuals who don't find fault in a Black woman having a mind of her own and be willing to buck the party line. Well, it's because of the racist bigots. I know. I used to belong to the party. Asked whether she believes she will face pushback from Democrats over a decision She said the most dangerous thing to the Democrat Party is a black person with a mind of their own. Amen, sister. So it wouldn't surprise me. As for her priorities after switching parties, she said she will continue to focus on education and expanding the Republican majority in the House. Education and the importance of school choice has been and will continue to be a key focus of mine, she said. But outside of education, I look forward to working with my colleagues in the Georgia General Assembly to tackle the most pressing issues facing our state and help grow the Republican Party, helping us not focus not just on preaching to the choir, but growing the congregation. In a memo shared on social media in May, she accused Democrats of turning against her for being a staunch school choice advocate. I support school choice, parent rights, and opportunities for children to thrive, especially those that are marginalized and tend to fail in school. She said at the time, the Democrats at the Georgia State Capitol took a hard position and demanded every Democrat vote against children for their teachers' union. I voted yes for parents and yes for children not failing schools. She justified her position by noting that some schools in her district have a 3% reading proficiency rate and that many kids cannot do simple math. I have a few colleagues upset with me to the point where they're giving away $1,000 checks to anyone that will run against me, she continued. I'm not apologizing because my colleagues don't like how I vote. She explained that the time that parents are upset about some politicians put the teachers' union and donors ahead of their constituents. Her speech took a personal turn when she accused her colleagues of being upset that she stood up for her principles. It's ironic. I say every election year, I hear Black Lives Matter, but do they? I see every other minority being prioritized except Black children living in poverty and can't read, she argued. And ma'am, I've been saying that for several years now on this show. In fact, I think I'll reach out to you and see if I can bring you on sometime soon so you can share it with everyone, because your voice needs to be heard. It won't be heard by the Democrats, as you know. We'll send $1,000. We'll send $100,000 to the border for immigration services, but Black communities, not even a shout out. I'm sorry, I don't agree with this, she added. I'm not backing down. I'm not actually just getting started. Earlier this year, aimed criticism from her Democrat counterparts in the state legislature. She supported a school choice bill that would have expanded opportunities for students who attend Georgia's lowest rated schools. Georgia Senate Bill 233 would have created $6,500 vouchers for students at schools performing in the bottom 25% of the state to help pay for private school tuition and homeschooling expenses if they were inclined to do so. Republican Governor Brian Kemp pushed for it, and it appears to have the votes to pass under the Republican-controlled Golden Dome until 16 House Republicans voted it down. Her decision to switch political parties while in office, which extended the Republican majority in the House, comes after former Georgia State Representative Vernon Jones made the same move in 2021. In an opt-in for Fox News, Jones argued in January 2021 that he was no longer a Democrat because he cannot stand for the defunding of police, higher taxes on working families, and job-killing socialist policies that will devastate Americans in all walks of life. Now, let me make one thing clear. I haven't changed, he said. The Democrat Party has changed. It's become a toxic combination of radical leftists and liberal elites in San Francisco and Hollywood who've taken over the former party, he added at the time. And sir, that's what I've been preaching from right here. Good God, if I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 freaking times. It's not the same Democrat Party of JFK. It's been hijacked by the far left liberals and their crazy warped ideology that's destroyed it. It is a party that's going nowhere fast. And thankfully now, CNN's realizing it, and Democrat members of Congress across the nation are going, wait a minute, I don't believe this, or I don't believe that, or I don't believe we should. No, it's wrong. And they're seeing the light. So welcome to the Republican Party. If you live in Indianapolis, you might want to call 1-800-U-Haul and pack your shit and get out now. The Indianapolis City Council passed a proposed gun control measure by a vote of 18-5 yesterday, introduced by Democrat Mayor Joe Hotsett as part of his public safety plan. It's called Proposal 156. It was initially approved 9-4 by the city's Public Safety and Criminal Justice Committee. The ordinance increases the age required to purchase a gun in the city from 18 to 21. At 18, you can go join the military and die for your country, but in Illinois, you can't buy a gun. At 18, you can become a police officer, but when you're off duty, you can't protect yourself or your family. Same thing for the military member. When you're off duty, guess what? If you live there, you're screwed. It also bans what? Those scary black assault rifles within city limits, not elsewhere, and mandates a license to carry. Tonight's council votes on Proposal 149 and 156 proved to Indianapolis that its leadership won't back down for taking bold steps to protect residents and neighborhoods. The mayor said in a statement, I applaud the council's bipartisan support for funding our partnership with U.S. Attorney Zach Myers, holding the worst of the worst offenders to account. You people are so freaking stupid. It's just painful to listen to you. The bad guys don't give a damn what laws you pass. They're still going to do whatever the hell they want to do. That's why they're called criminals. They're still going to come in with guns from elsewhere and shoot up and kill people because that's what bad guys do. The only people you're hurting are law-abiding citizens from protecting themselves. And why you pea-brain morons can't get this through your fucking little skulls is beyond me and everybody else that listens to your rhetoric. It's stupid, and you're stuck on it. He goes on to say, I also wish to thank those who approved our common sense gun safety measures, including a ban on semi-automatic assault weapons, increasing the purchase age to 21, requiring handgun license. So now you got to get a license if you buy a handgun, and, quote, removing concealed carry of firearms, the mayor continued. So if you got a concealed carry, guess what? You don't anymore. Tonight, we're sending a clear message to where we stand about the causes of gun violence and the proliferation of illegal weapons on our streets. You just sent a notice to the criminals that that's the best place to go to commit crimes. That's what you did. You sorry, sick, twisted, uneducated baboons up in this state are a sad excuse of humans. I just what do you say about that? We've been talking about this gun debate for so many fucking years, and the only plan that Democrats come up with hurt law-abiding citizens. That's all it does. If a bad guy shows up at a restaurant and he wants to shoot and kill people in there, or a school, or a courthouse, or the mall and a sign says weapons aren't allowed, do you think they're going to go, oh, I made it, my bad, I'm sorry, and go away? No, you dumbass. Where do most of these shootings take place? In gun-free zones. Why can't y'all get that through your fucking thick skull? You even pissed off my chihuahua. You hear him? He's pissed at how dumb you are. Tell it, Sir Peanut. Joe Biden and Ukraine's love affair never made sense to begin with. But now it appears to be becoming unhinged. Ukrainian president is now not being shy about his dissatisfaction over his country's current being denied NATO membership, taking to social media to express his outrage. Ukraine will be present at the NATO summit taking place today and Wednesday, he announced, and America wants to keep his country from joining. It's unprecedented and absurd when a time frame is not set for the intervention nor for Ukraine's membership. While at the same time, vague wording about conditions is added even for inviting Ukraine, he tweeted today. He also said the international alliance was disrespecting his country and has substantially motivated Russia in the process. President Biden made it clear in a CNN interview that aired this past Sunday that he does not support Ukraine joining the alliance during his present war with Russia. Biden also noted certain issues with Ukraine's eligibility, such as a lack of democracy, or a lack of being a Democrat country, while he said there should be a rational path to Ukraine to be able to qualify, to be able to get to NATO. He did not go into specifics. The president of Ukraine said the international alliance was about respect and that Ukraine deserves respect and it seeks membership. He also claimed that by not taking steps to include Ukraine, a window of opportunity is being left to bargain Ukraine's membership in NATO and negotiations with Russia. This, he argued, provides Russia with motivation to continue its terror. World leaders, including Biden and German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, however, have suggested Ukrainian joining NATO would prompt further aggression by Russia rather than serve as a deterrent. In a CNN interview, Biden explained that allowing Ukraine would commit NATO to fighting against Russia. Joe, I realize that you're mentally not all there, so allow me to help those that follow you that want to listen to my show and critique it, how this actually breaks down. Without America and NATO supplying weapons, ammunition, planes, tanks, ships, and beans and bullets to fight their war against Russia, Ukraine would have lost in the first 30 days. America and NATO are at war with Russia. World War III is happening right now, except we're doing it through Ukraine. Without our support, Ukraine falls. So you have, along with our NATO partners, pumped all this money, all these beans and bullets, all these tanks, planes, helicopters, ships, everything they need to continue fighting Russia into that country. Every time that Russia's President Putin says, this is a red line. If you do this, we will attack you with nuclear weapons. That's what their people say. That's their propaganda. And then we cross that red line. That's what they said they would do if we supplied tanks. We're supplying tanks. That's what they said we'd do if they would do if we supplied F-16s. We supplied F-16s. That's what they said they would do if we supplied munitions that exploded in the air with thousands of bomblets that go down and destroy everything and anything in its path. That, past Democrat leaders have said are a war crime weapon. That's what we're doing right now. Ukraine survives because of what we're doing currently. And now you say they don't belong in NATO because Russia says if you allow them in NATO, we're going to use nuclear weapons and attack NATO. You keep calling their bluff. Do you actually believe that that's the final red line? Maybe it'll change. I know it changed with the F-16s because that's the same thing you said, Joe, with the F-16s that Ukraine was begging for. You said no because it will escalate the war and make Russia act out against us. Now you're giving them F-16s. You said the same thing about tanks. So I realize you're a crazy old man that's just lost your fucking marbles. And I don't know why you're still there. I don't know how you're still functioning. You know, I watched, and you can see it right here on YouTube for anybody who hasn't already seen it yet. Joe Biden's over there in Europe. He meets with King Charles. The two of them go to all these different functions where they get their picture taken and they watch military parades and all that stuff that they do whenever they go visit each other. And Joe Biden is standing there like he just smoked a big-ass doobie with Willie Nelson and is clueless what to do. And King Charles grabs him by the arm to lead him away to where they need to go stand next. And Joe Biden's just like, the world's watching this shit show unfold. Anyhow, continuing on, we're determined to commit every inch of territory that is NATO territory. It's a compliment that we've all made no matter what, he said. If the war is going on, then we're all in the war. We're at war with Russia. If that were the case, NATO recently accepted Finland as the 31st member and reached a deal on Monday to pave a way for Sweden to be the 32nd, which Russia said, if you did this, we're going to attack you with nuclear weapons. They haven't done that yet. Not that it won't happen tonight, for crying out loud, but so far. Look, you're either in on the war or you're not. And if you're going to be in, then fucking go all in. That's how you win wars. You don't do this half-ass shit that the Democrats do. This goes back to how we pulled out of Afghanistan and surrendered to the fucking same people that want to chop our heads off. It goes back to Vietnam, for crying out loud. How we just up and fucking left them. And everybody that supported us was killed. That's the Democrat Party. Cut and run. Russia invaded Ukraine back on February 24th of 2022. The invasion has now crossed 500 days as of Saturday, July 8th of 2023. Look, I'm the first person that will tell you, do everything possible for peace. Everything possible for peace. I didn't want to go to war the first time I went, the second time I went, the third time I went, the fourth time I went, and I don't know anybody that did want to go to war. I don't know anybody that jumps up and joins, oh yeah, send me. Let's go fucking kick some ass. No, that's some scary shit. Okay? It just is. You go, you do your job, you pray that you survive this crap. But if you're going to commit America and our money, it's us, Joe. We, the people, are paying for those beans and bullets and tanks and airplanes that you're sending over there. It's not your money. It's ours. We're, the American people, are funding your war with Russia via Ukraine. And that's just a fact. Period. In a story, stick a fucking fork in it. It's a fact. A former Democrat lawmaker said he has heard from other Democrats that they wish President Biden would step aside from his reelection bid. Representative Harold Ford Jr., Democrat Tennessee, reacted to a number of recent reports about Biden's mental accuracy and his refusal to acknowledge his son Hunter's 4-year-old daughter Monday on the 5. A weekend New York Times op-ed from columnist Maureen Dow, which we already talked about, called out the 46th president for saying he has 6 and not 7 grandchildren. Also, the Axios report on Monday claiming Biden's a quick trigger temper and abolishes his aides with lots of foul language. And Elliot Cohen, a contributing writer at The Atlantic, argued Biden should step aside in the upcoming 2024 presidential election and that he has no business running for office at age 80. Ford said he's heard a lot of reasons from other Democrats about why Biden shouldn't run again. I, too, hear Democrats saying what you're hearing, what you heard, that they wish the president would not run again for a lot of reasons that have been put in stone around the table over many, many days. He's not bringing people together, he explained on the 5. I think if you look at a lot of the polling data, in fairness, a majority of Americans hope there's not a Biden-Trump rematch. And they hope that there's something new, something different that emerges, and that people have more choices. The 5 co-hosts added both Trump and Biden supporters bring out the worst in one another, which in turn brings out the worst in the country. So if the Atlantic is right, if I hear from a lot of people, most of the people I'm hearing from are wealthier people, or people who are in business, and people who believe that the president may have lost some of his faculty. We'll see if this campaign goes on, and it will be an opportunity, Ford shared. I've contended that if Robert Kennedy Jr., if he continues to poll well as he's polled, I think you're going to probably invite perhaps other candidates into the race. Co-host Jesse Waters argued Biden was a fraud for acting one way in public and another way in private. There are 2 types of people. There are frauds, and then there are people that are the real deals. And Biden is not one of them. If you're the real deal, you act the same way in public as you do in private, like Gutfeld. He also, he just is obnoxious on camera as he is off camera, Waters quipped. Same with Trump. He doesn't change no matter how people are looking at him or what he says. Whether you're in the room or not in the room, he's the same person. Joe Biden, on the other hand, is a fraud. Joe Biden is not a family man. You don't say you're a family man and just ignore your granddaughter. And you can't be this seasoned elder statesman that's calm and making great decisions for this nation and then just blow your lid at everybody behind closed doors. He doesn't ever get angry about the border or about criminals prying on us or the high prices, he continued. Biden only gets angry when you zero in on his fraudulent personality. And I couldn't have said that better. 100% factual. A U.S. Capitol police officer who was a hero during the January 6th storming of the Capitol has now been arrested and charged with child pornography possession yesterday. 42-year-old Officer Jared Michael Lemon was charged with 5 counts of possession of child pornography. Maryland State Police officials arrested him without incident at his residence around 5 a.m. yesterday morning. The months-long investigation began when authorities received a tip about Lemon's online activity. The Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force also received a cyber tip from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children that their online user, later identified as Lemon, had uploaded suspected child pornography. Maryland State Police explained in a statement. Authorities then discovered that the suspect was working as a Capitol police officer. He has worked as a Capitol police officer since 2005. State police executed a warrant at his residence in December of 2022 and analyzed his electronic devices. U.S. Capitol Police were aware of the allegations at the time and reassigned him accordingly. Reassign him? The Capitol Police learned about the investigation in December 2022 and then, and only then, revoked the officer's police powers, and while MSP was investigating the allegations, reassigned him to administration duties where he would not interact with the public, the Capitol Police said in a statement. Again, child pornography. Fired. Out of here. Go to fucking jail. Officer Lemon will be suspended pending the outcome of the criminal investigation. Officer Lemon was transported to the Calvert County Detention Center, where he's currently being held without bond. Maryland State Police is actively investigating the case. Oh, for the love of all things holy. Personally, if you molest a child, if it can be proven, without a doubt, for instance, there's photos or video, your ass should get the death chamber. Period. End of discussion. In fact, for that particular crime against children, I say bring out the damn guillotine and or chop your fucking head off or hang you. That's what I think should be done to child abusers. Which is why I'm not the president of the United States, because I would do things a whole lot different than anybody else that's ever been there. I do not play that silly ass fucking game with these deadbeat, horrible, disgusting human beings, subhuman beings that pry on children. Nope. You disgusting, pathetic fuckers don't deserve to be breathing oxygen. Well, I managed to get through all the stories in a timely manner, which I did not expect I was going to be able to do in a timely manner, but I did. I thank you for tuning in tonight. You had many places you could be. You chose to be here with me, and for that, I am forever grateful. Please share my videos, share the channel with your friends and family on your social media platforms, and also in the description of this show, once it goes up as a regular video, and all my videos and all my shows, you can see the places on social media that you can follow me. Follow me there. I'll follow you back. That's how this works. That's how we spread the conservative views. Also, go check out DouglasDucote.com, the website. It is up and running right now. They're still going to do a little bit of tweaking to it. That's going to happen over the next several days. But you can get on it right now, and you can check out all the stuff that's there. Learn more about me if you want to, or learn about the different things we've done on the border and so forth. Thank you for being here. I'll be back on a Thursday night right here at 8 p.m. Central Time. As always, please say a prayer for our men and women serving the United States military, our veterans, our law enforcement officers, our first responders and their families, our angel families, our blue and gold star families in our country. And if you happen to not know who angel families are, or blue and gold star families, please Google that, because they need our support more now than ever before, because this administration is pissing on the graves of their loved ones, and that shit is unacceptable. Thank you, everyone. God bless you, and I'll see you back here next Thursday. Anything breaks between now and then, I'll do a video about it or I'll do a live show. Other than that, be safe, whatever you're doing tonight. Enjoy your evening, and I'll see you back here on Thursday. Good night, everyone.